5 old friends from university, Phil, Dom, Hutch, Luke, and Rob, decided to meet up for drinks at a pub to discuss plans for a trip. They wanted to catch up and spend time together. Rob had the idea of going hiking in Sweden, which is in Eastern Europe, but the other friends didn't like that idea and quickly turned it down. As the night went on, the friends left the pub and walked by a shop. Luke wanted to buy a bottle of vodka, so he and Rob went into the shop while the others waited outside. Inside the shop, they saw that the cashier looked very upset and was slumped against the wall behind the counter. Suddenly, 2 armed robbers came out from the back of the shop. Luke quickly hid behind a shelf at the end of an aisle, but Rob was too scared to move. The robbers started threatening Rob and demanded that he give them his wallet, watch, and ring. Rob gave them his wallet and watch without any trouble, but he refused to give them his ring because it was his wedding band and very special to him. Luke, still hiding, held the vodka bottle in his hand and got ready to help. But before he could do anything, the robbers attacked Rob. Luke watched in horror as his friend was beaten to death right in front of him. To honor Rob's wish, the 4 friends decided to go on a hiking trip along Kungsleden, or King's Trail, in Sarek National Park in northern Sweden. They planned the trip for 6 months after Rob's death. As they were hiking, Dom lost his footing and hurt his knee, which made it hard for him to walk. Hutch looked at the map and suggested that they take a different route through a forest, thinking it would be faster and take them half the time. When they entered the forest, the group began to see strange and creepy things. They saw a dead elk hanging from the tree branches, which was really weird and scary. They also noticed strange symbols carved into the trees. The friends were confused and a bit frightened by these strange phenomena, but they kept going deeper into the forest. As night falls, a heavy rainstorm drenches the men. They get soaked and start looking for shelter. Eventually, they find an old, abandoned cabin and decide to break in to stay there overnight. Inside the cabin, they see necklaces hanging on the walls. These necklaces have symbols on them that look just like the strange runes they saw carved into the trees earlier. While exploring the second floor of the cabin, Phil makes a strange discovery. He finds a wooden statue that looks like a human body without a head, but with antlers instead of hands. It looks very creepy and makes the men feel uneasy. They can't help but wonder what kind of place they've stumbled into as they settle in for the night, hoping to stay safe until morning. During the night, the 4 friends are troubled by scary nightmares. When they wake up the next morning, Luke finds strange puncture wounds on his chest. These wounds look like they were made by something sharp, but he doesn't know how they got there. The group starts to worry and looks for Phil, who is not with them. They search the cabin and finally find Phil in the attic. He is naked and kneeling in front of the creepy wooden statue they saw the night before. Phil looks like he is praying to the effigy, which makes the group even more scared and confused about what is happening to them in this strange place. The group leaves the cabin to continue their journey deeper into the woods, hoping to find a way out. They are nervous and confused after everything that happened in the cabin, but they know they need to keep moving. As they walk through the dense forest, they can't shake the feeling that something is watching them. The trees seem to close in around them, making it hard to see the sky. The strange symbols they saw earlier appear more frequently, carved into the bark of the trees along their path. Even though they are scared, they stick together and try to stay calm, hoping that they will find a way out of the forest soon. Upon climbing a ridge to get a better view of their surroundings, Luke spots something strange. He sees what looks like a human hand wrapped around the trunk of a distant tree. Feeling uneasy, Luke tries to tell the group about what he saw. However, Dom doesn't believe him and doubts his story. This leads to an argument between them. During the heated exchange, Dom reveals that he blames Luke for Rob's death, accusing him of being cowardly for not acting during the robbery. The tension between the friends grows, making their situation even more stressful as they struggle to find their way out of the woods. Later that night, Luke wakes up from another nightmare to the sound of screams. He quickly realizes that Hutch's tent is empty. Alarmed, the 3 friends rush deeper into the woods, following Hutch's terrified cries. By dawn, they find themselves lost and unable to remember where their campsite was. With no choice, they decide to continue searching for Hutch without their tents and supplies. As they move through the forest, they come across a horrifying sight. Hutch is impaled on tree branches, just like the gutted deer they had seen earlier. The friends are shocked and heartbroken. They retrieve Hutch's body to take his compass and knife, hoping these items will help them survive. Wanting to give Hutch some kind of burial, they cover his body with tree branches. The 3 friends, now even more determined and scared, continue their journey through the ominous forest. Luke leaves Phil and Dom at the bottom of a ridge and climbs a hill to get a better view of the forest. From the top, He realizes they are close to the edge of the forest and also sees smoke rising from distant campfires. Excited by this discovery, he hurries back to share the news with his friends. However, when he arrives, he finds Phil and Dom with their flashlights pointed toward the trees, saying they heard a noise. Suddenly, Phil is dragged away by an unseen creature. Luke and Dom quickly look for a hiding spot, but Luke urges Dom to run with him instead. They get up and start running, with the creature chasing them. As they run, they pass Phil's body, impaled on tree branches near a path lined with torches. This path leads to a small village. Desperate for safety, Luke and Dom seek shelter in the first building they see. Exhausted, they collapse on the floor of the cabin, only to be beaten unconscious by the people living there. When they awaken, Luke and Dom find themselves tied up by their hands in a dark basement. An elderly woman enters and inspects the puncture marks on Luke's chest. She then pulls down her dress to show a similar pattern on her own chest. Without saying anything else, she turns to leave the basement and gives a command in a foreign language. This prompts two men to grab Dom and take him to the upper floor of the cabin. A younger woman then enters the basement and tells Luke that preparations are being made for a sacrifice. Sometime later, Dom is brought back to the basement. He is beaten and bloodied, but still alive. Dom tells Luke that he will be sacrificed to the creature and urges Luke to find a way to escape and destroy the village. Dom's words fill Luke with determination as he starts thinking about how to free himself and stop the terrible events unfolding around them. Dom is taken outside the cabin and tied to a wooden post with his hands bound behind his back. As day turns into night, a roar echoes from the forest. Immediately, the captors fall to their knees in worship. Dom, in a daze, sees a vision of his wife coming out of the trees and gently holding his face. However, this is actually the creature that has been chasing the men. It looks like the wooden effigy they found in the abandoned cabin. The creature takes Dom from the post and impales him on the branches of a nearby tree, leaving him to die. Desperate to escape, Luke manages to break one of his restraints by breaking his thumb, but before he can free himself completely, the young woman suddenly enters the basement. Luke quickly asks about the creature, and she explains that it is called a Jotun, a godlike being from Scandinavian mythology. She tells Luke that they offer it sacrifices in exchange for immortality. She informs Luke that he must take part in a ritual, where he will either submit to the creature and join their cult, or be killed. Luke's mind races as he contemplates his next move, determined to find a way out of this nightmare. After the young woman leaves, Luke manages to break free from his restraints and cautiously makes his way out of the basement. He ascends to the upper floor of the cabin, where he hears prayers and screams coming from behind a closed door. Holding a burning torch for light and courage, he pushes open the door and is horrified by the sight before him. Inside, he finds a twisted congregation of mummified humans who are still alive, their bodies preserved unnaturally by the immortality granted through their worship of the Jotun. Remembering Dom's final wish, Luke sets fire to the worshippers. The blaze attracts the attention of the Jotun, who emerges from the dark forest to find the cabin engulfed in flames. Enraged, the creature slaughters the remaining worshippers in a furious frenzy. Seizing the opportunity, Luke slips away from the burning cabin unnoticed, armed now with a rifle and an axe he took from one of the worshippers. Before disappearing into the woods, he takes a daring shot at the creature just as it is about to kill another victim. The Jotun pursues Luke relentlessly, trying to break his spirit with hallucinations from his recurring nightmares. Despite its efforts, Luke remains determined and fights back when the creature corners him, repeatedly forcing him to kneel and submit. Luke uses the axe to strike the creature on its head, weakening it momentarily. He then follows the guidance of sunlight filtering through the trees, eventually breaking free from the forest into an open field. As Luke emerges into the clear, the creature hesitates at the edge of the tree line, unable to pursue him further. It roars in frustration, but Luke defiantly shouts back in triumph. Turning away from the monster, he heads toward a paved road where he spots a passing car, a reassuring sign of civilization. With renewed hope, Luke walks toward the road, knowing that he has escaped the horrors of the forest and survived the ordeal against all odds. Which movie should we recap next? Drop your suggestions in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more movie recaps. Thanks for watching.